The morning sunlight filtered through the sheer curtains of our bedroom, casting a soft glow that danced over the sheets. I lay there, half awake, the scent of freshly brewed coffee wafting in from the kitchen. Maggie stirred beside me, her hair a wild tangle of curls framing her face. She always looked beautiful in the morning, a vision of warmth and comfort that made my heart swell. But beneath that surface, a storm was brewing, one I could feel in the air, heavy and electric. As I pulled myself out of bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Maggie's laughter echoed from the kitchen, mingling with the clattering of dishes. I found her leaning over the counter, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. She wore one of my old t-shirts, the fabric clinging to her curves in a way that sent a familiar rush of desire coursing through me. I loved that shirt. It reminded me of our late-night talks, the softness of her skin against mine, and the warmth of her body intertwined with my own. "Good morning, sleepyhead," she said, her voice playful, yet there was a flicker in her eyes that I couldn't quite read. I returned her smile, but the feeling lingered, a sense that she was hiding something beneath her cheerful exterior. "Coffee's ready," she added, handing me a mug. The warmth seeped into my hands, but I felt a chill in the back of my mind. I took a sip, the rich flavor swirling on my tongue, grounding me momentarily. "I was thinking we could have dinner with Jake and Sophie tonight. Just a little get-together." "Sure," I replied, my voice steady despite the knot tightening in my stomach. Jake was a good friend, but lately, I had noticed the way he looked at Maggie, a glimmer of interest that unsettled me. I brushed the thought aside, convincing myself it was just paranoia. As we sat at the table, the sun creeping higher in the sky, we shared light banter, discussing our plans for the day. Maggie was vibrant and animated, her laughter infectious. But in the back of my mind, I could feel the tension building, a subtle undercurrent that I couldn't ignore. Later that afternoon, while Maggie was out running errands, I decided to clear my head. I grabbed my bike and rode through the nearby park, the crisp air filling my lungs, the scenery blurring past me. But even the beauty of the moment couldn't shake the growing unease. I thought of Jake, of Maggie's laughter, of the intimacy that used to be ours and felt slipping away. When I returned home, the house felt eerily quiet. I glanced at my phone, noting a missed message from Sophie, asking if I was excited about dinner. I texted back a quick reply, but my heart wasn't in it. The unease gnawed at me, a dark little worm burrowing deeper into my thoughts. That evening, when Jake and Sophie arrived, I tried to shake off the feeling. We gathered in the living room, drinks in hand, and for a while, laughter filled the air. Maggie moved gracefully through the space, pouring wine and sharing stories, her energy infectious. Yet there was a flicker of something between her and Jake, a spark that made my stomach churn. The night wore on, the wine flowing freely, laughter echoing off the walls. I watched as Maggie and Jake leaned closer together, their conversations dipping into hushed tones. It was subtle, but I couldn't help but notice how her hand brushed against his, a fleeting touch that sent a jolt of electricity through the room. I tried to focus on Sophie, who sat on the other side of me, engaging me with light-hearted chatter. But my eyes kept drifting back to Maggie, her smile bright, her laughter ringing out like a siren's call. The more I watched, the more the air thickened with an unspoken tension, one that whispered of secrets hidden just beneath the surface. Eventually, as the evening began to wind down, Maggie suggested we play a game, a classic party favorite. As we settled in, the atmosphere shifted. The playful competitiveness ignited sparks of energy, but it only heightened my awareness of the glances exchanged between Maggie and Jake. At one point, while everyone was distracted, I caught her eye. There was a moment of understanding, an electric charge that seemed to linger in the air. I felt a mixture of longing and dread wash over me. I wanted to reach for her, to pull her close and remind her of the bond we shared, but the distance felt insurmountable. After Jake and Sophie left, the house was quiet once more, but the silence was charged. I turned to Maggie, who was standing by the kitchen sink, her back to me. "Did you have fun tonight?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She nodded, but I could see the shadows crossing her face. "Yeah, it was nice," she said, but I could feel the hesitation in her tone. I stepped closer, wanting to bridge the gap, wanting to feel the warmth of her body against mine, but something held me back. "Can we talk?" I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. Maggie turned to face me, her expression unreadable. "Of course," she replied, but I sensed the weight of unspoken words lingering between us. I took a deep breath, ready to confront the tension, the distance that felt like it had grown overnight. Little did I know, this conversation would unravel everything I thought I knew about our love. As I stood there, watching Maggie's eyes flicker with uncertainty, I could feel the air thickening around us. The evening had been light, but now the weight of unspoken feelings loomed heavy in the space. I took a step closer, our bodies almost touching, and the tension pulsed between us like a live wire. "Maggie," I began, my voice low, "I feel like there's something we need to address. Something's changed between us." I reached out, brushing my fingertips against her arm, and the contact sent a rush of warmth through me. She looked down at my hand, a mix of surprise and longing crossing her face. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," I replied, feeling the vulnerability creep in. I can't shake the feeling that you're pulling away from me." I took another step closer, now close enough to feel the heat radiating off her skin. "And it scares me." Maggie drew a breath, her chest rising subtly under the fabric of my old t-shirt. "Wesley, it's not that simple." She looked up, her eyes meeting mine, a spark igniting between us. "You know I love you, but things have been complicated." "Complicated how?" I pressed, unable to mask the desperation in my voice. I could see the conflict in her expression, the way her lips parted slightly as if she was about to say something that could change everything. Before she could respond, I leaned in closer, my heart racing as I searched her gaze. I wanted to feel the warmth of her body against mine, the soft curve of her lips meeting my own. But there was an unspoken barrier, an uncertainty that made the moment feel fragile. "I miss us," I confessed, my voice breaking slightly. "I miss the intimacy, the connection we used to share. The way we'd lie together, wrapped up in each other after a long day, our bodies intertwined, exploring every inch." Her breath caught, and for a moment, I could see a flicker of desire in her eyes, the kind that ignited my own longing. I stepped even closer, our bodies nearly touching, the warmth radiating off her skin beckoning me. Maggie swallowed hard, her gaze dropping to my lips. "I miss that too," she admitted, her voice barely audible, yet charged with emotion. "But I'm afraid of what it means." I reached out, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear, letting my fingers linger on her skin. "What if we could find our way back?" I whispered, the words spilling from my lips like a desperate plea. "What if we could reconnect, remind ourselves of what we had?" She hesitated, her body stilling under my touch, and in that moment, I felt the air shift. I could sense her internal struggle, the battle between her desire and the weight of the world around us. But as I leaned in closer, the distance vanished, and our lips met in a soft, tentative kiss. The world around us faded away as the kiss deepened, igniting a fire that had long been dormant. My hands found their way to her waist, pulling her closer, the heat of our bodies colliding. I could taste the wine on her lips, sweet and intoxicating, a reminder of the laughter and joy that had filled the evening. But beneath the surface, I could feel the tension of everything unspoken, the betrayal, the doubt, the secrets that had woven themselves into the fabric of our lives. Yet in that moment, none of it mattered. All I wanted was to lose myself in her, to forget the outside world and drown in the warmth of her embrace. "Maggie," I murmured against her lips, feeling the weight of my own vulnerability. "I need you." Her breath itched, and she pulled back slightly, her eyes searching mine. "Wesley, Before she could finish, I captured her lips again, deepening the kiss, pouring all my longing, my fear, and my love into that single moment. Her body melted against mine, the tension evaporating as we surrendered to the connection that had always been there, simmering just below the surface. But as our kiss grew more fervent, I felt the familiar shadows creeping back into my mind, the image of Jake, the way he looked at her, the way he had laughed a little too easily at her jokes. I pulled away, breathless, the reality crashing back down. "What about Jake?" I asked, my voice thick with emotion. Maggie's expression faltered, her eyes reflecting the conflict within her. I don't know, Wesley, she admitted, her voice trembling. But I do know that I don't want to lose you. Then let's fight for us, I urged, my heart pounding. Let's push through whatever this is. We can't let it slip away. In that moment, I saw the flicker of determination in her eyes. She nodded slowly, as if accepting the challenge. Okay, she said softly. I want that too. But as we embraced again, the taste of passion lingering between us, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that our battle had only just begun. In the depths of the night, with shadows whispering secrets, I wondered if we could truly reclaim what had been lost, or if the forces pulling us apart were far stronger than either of us realized. As we held each other, the warmth of Maggie's body against mine felt like a lifeline. The scent of her hair enveloped me, a familiar aroma that reminded me of countless intimate moments we had shared. I could feel the pulse of our connection, fragile yet electric, as if we were both teetering on the edge of something profound. Maggie, I whispered, pulling back just enough to look into her eyes. I want to make this work. I need to remind you how much I love you. She bit her lip, a small gesture that sent a rush of desire through me. Show me, she replied softly, her voice thick with longing. Without thinking, I captured her lips again, this time more fiercely, as if trying to convey every ounce of my yearning. The kiss deepened, igniting a fire that surged through my veins. I felt her hands slide up my arms, her fingers curling into my hair, pulling me closer. The world outside faded away, and in that moment, it was just the two of us, lost in each other, wrapped in the warmth of our bodies. I pulled her closer, my hands roaming down her back, feeling the softness of her skin beneath the fabric of the t-shirt. I could sense her breath quicken, matching the rhythm of my own racing heart. Let's go to the bedroom, I murmured against her lips, my voice hoarse with desire. She nodded, her eyes filled with a mixture of uncertainty and excitement. Together, we moved through the house, our bodies brushing against each other, each touch igniting sparks of electricity. As we reached the bedroom, the atmosphere shifted, tension mingled with anticipation, filling the air with an intoxicating energy. I pushed the door closed behind us, and as I turned back to her, I could see the flicker of vulnerability in her gaze. Wesley, she said, a hint of hesitation in her voice. Are you sure we should? More than ever, I assured her, stepping closer once more. We need this. We need to reconnect. With a shared understanding, I cupped her face in my hands, my thumbs brushing over her cheekbones. Slowly, I leaned in, capturing her lips again in a searing kiss. Her hands slid down my chest, fingers dancing over the fabric of my shirt, igniting a fire that pulled in my stomach. I stepped backward, leading her to the bed, where the soft sheets awaited us. As I sat down, I pulled her onto my lap, our bodies fitting together as if they were always meant to be this way. I could feel the heat radiating between us, a simmering tension that begged to be released. Maggie looked down at me, her cheeks flushed, eyes sparkling with a mix of desire and uncertainty. What if? She began, but I silenced her with another kiss, deep and hungry, pouring all my longing into it. Her body responded instinctively, arching toward me, as if we were two magnets drawn together. My hands slipped under her shirt, fingers grazing over her skin, feeling the warmth and softness that had been absent for too long. A shiver ran through her, and I could feel her heart racing against mine. Maggie, I whispered, breaking the kiss for just a moment to gaze into her eyes. You're so beautiful. She smiled, a mix of shyness and desire, and in that moment I knew I wanted to worship her, to remind her of the magic we once shared. I pressed my lips against her neck, trailing soft kisses along her collarbone, feeling her breath hitch at each touch. Wesley, she gasped, her hands threading through my hair as she tilted her head back, exposing more of her skin to me. The sight was intoxicating, a canvas of desire that urged me on. I wanted to take my time, to explore every inch of her, to bring her to the heights of pleasure and connection we had both been craving. I kissed my way down her neck, feeling her pulse quicken beneath my lips. The sounds of her breath, the way her body responded to my touch, filled me with a primal need to push further. "Tell me what you want," I murmured against her skin, my voice low and husky. "I want you," she breathed, the urgency in her voice sending a thrill through me. With that simple declaration, a fire ignited within me. I leaned back, pulling her with me, my hands moving to the hem of her shirt. I hesitated for just a moment, searching her eyes for any sign of hesitation. But all I found was a fierce longing that mirrored my own. I slowly lifted her shirt, revealing the soft skin beneath. The sight of her, exposed and vulnerable, took my breath away. I leaned down, kissing her stomach, feeling the warmth of her skin against my lips. "You're perfect," I whispered, my words laced with reverence. Maggie gasped, her fingers digging into the sheets as I continued my exploration, trailing kisses lower, savoring every moment. I could feel her body respond, arching toward me, begging for more. "Wesley," she breathed, her voice thick with desire. "Please!" With a surge of passion, I moved back up to her lips, capturing them again, our kisses growing more urgent. As I pulled her closer, I felt the weight of the world fall away, the doubts, the fears, and the betrayals. In this moment, it was just us, a fiery connection igniting between our bodies, reminding us both of the love that still flickered beneath the surface. And as we melted into each other, I knew we were stepping into uncharted territory, where passion and vulnerability entwined, where the promise of healing lay just within reach. The night stretched ahead of us, full of possibility, and as I lost myself in her, I felt a glimmer of hope that we could reclaim what was ours. With our bodies entwined, the world outside faded into oblivion. Every kiss, every soft gasp echoed in the quiet of the room, each sound amplifying the intimacy we were rediscovering. I craved more, hungering for the connection we had once taken for granted, and I felt it burning brighter than ever in the heat of the moment. As I kissed her, my hands explored the curves of her body, trailing up her sides and grazing the soft swell of her breasts. I could feel her heart racing beneath my fingertips, a rhythm that matched my own. Maggie's breath quickened, and she pressed against me, urging me on. "Wesley," she breathed, her voice laced with a mix of desire and need. "I want you to take me." The urgency in her voice sent a thrill down my spine. I leaned back, my eyes locking onto hers, searching for any hint of uncertainty. But all I found was a fire, one that ignited my own desire. "Are you sure?" I asked, my voice low and gravelly, tinged with lust. "Yes," she whispered, a desperate urgency in her tone. "I need you." That was all the encouragement I needed. I shifted us, laying her back against the soft sheets, my body hovering above hers. The sight of her, flushed and eager, sent a surge of passion through me. I took a moment to drink her in, the way her hair fanned out against the pillow, the delicate curve of her neck, the way her chest rose and fell in anticipation. "Let me show you how much I love you," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. With deliberate slowness, I trailed kisses down her body, savoring every inch of her skin. I started at her neck, where I lingered, placing soft kisses along her collarbone, feeling her shiver beneath my touch. As I moved lower, I traced the outline of her ribs, feeling the warmth radiating from her. Wesley," she sighed, her fingers threading through my hair, pulling me closer. I could feel the heat of her body, the soft urgency of her touch urging me on. I continued my exploration, letting my lips travel down her stomach, planting gentle kisses along the way. The taste of her skin was intoxicating, a mix of sweetness and warmth that drove me wild. I paused for a moment, looking up at her, my heart racing at the sight of her flushed cheeks and sparkling eyes. "You're so beautiful," I murmured, my voice thick with desire. "Don't stop," she urged, her breath hitching as I pressed my lips just above the waistband of her shorts. The anticipation hung heavy in the air, and I could feel the tension building between us. I slowly unbuttoned her shorts, my fingers trembling slightly as I slid them down her legs. The sight of her in her delicate lace panties sent a jolt of desire through me, and I could feel my pulse quickening. I took my time, savoring the moment, letting my fingers brush against her skin as I removed her last barrier. "Wesley," she whispered, her voice thick with longing. Please! The desperation in her tone ignited something primal within me. I leaned in, kissing her thighs, feeling the heat radiate from her core. I let my fingers explore her softness, tracing the delicate lace, watching her eyes flutter shut in pleasure. I wanted to take my time, to savor every moment, but the urgency was palpable. I reached up, sliding my fingers beneath the lace, feeling her warmth against my skin. The moment was electric, and I could feel the world outside slipping away as I lost myself in her. Maggie! I breathed, my voice barely a whisper. You're incredible! Her back arched in response, a soft moan escaping her lips. Wesley, I need you too. Before she could finish, I captured her lips again, drowning out her words with my kiss. I wanted to feel her completely, to make her forget everything except the passion that ignited between us. I pulled her closer, our bodies molding together, a perfect fit as I moved to claim her fully. In that moment, all doubts and fears melted away. It was just the two of us, lost in a whirlwind of passion and desire, exploring the depths of our connection. As I moved closer, I could feel her heartbeat matching mine, a rhythm that drew us deeper into each other, reminding us of the love that had once burned so brightly. And as the night unfolded, I realized that this was just the beginning of our journey back to one another, a journey that would test our limits, but ultimately bind us together in ways we had never imagined. As our bodies melded together, the night air hung thick with the scent of desire. The soft glow of the bedside lamp illuminated Maggie's features, casting shadows that danced across her skin. I wanted to memorize every inch of her, the way her body responded to my touch, the way her breath quickened when I brushed my lips against her. With a sudden surge of confidence, I shifted my weight, my hands roaming over her curves, feeling her warmth beneath my fingertips. I leaned in closer, kissing her deeply, pouring every ounce of my longing into that kiss. Our lips moved in perfect harmony, igniting a fire that spread through us both. Maggie! I breathed against her lips, my voice low and filled with hunger. You feel so incredible. Wesley! She replied, her voice thick with emotion. Don't stop. I need more. The urgency in her voice sent a thrill through me, awakening a primal instinct. I trailed kisses down her neck, savoring the soft skin, moving lower to her collarbone. Every inch of her was a tantalizing invitation, and I was determined to explore every bit. As my lips traveled lower, I could feel her pulse quickening, a soft gasp escaping her lips when I reached the swell of her breasts. I paused, looking up to gauge her reaction, and saw her watching me with a mixture of anticipation and desire. You're so beautiful, I whispered again, the words a reverent prayer. I dipped my head, capturing her nipple between my lips, teasing and sucking gently, eliciting soft moans that fueled my desire. The sound wrapped around me like a warm embrace, and I reveled in the knowledge that I could bring her this kind of pleasure. My hands explored her body, tracing the curves of her hips and thighs, feeling her shiver beneath my touch. Wesley, please, she urged, her voice breathless, a plea that ignited a fire within me. I looked up, meeting her gaze, and saw a longing that mirrored my own. With a gentle but firm motion, I pushed her back onto the bed, reveling in the way she surrendered to me, her body pliant and eager. I climbed over her, my hands framing her face, my lips hovering just above hers. Are you ready? I asked, the weight of the moment heavy with promise. Yes, she breathed, a quiet urgency lacing her voice. In that instant, I felt a surge of possessiveness and affection. I wanted to claim her, to make her mine in every possible way. As I positioned myself between her legs, I could feel her warmth enveloping me, a sensation so intoxicating it made my head spin. I leaned down, kissing her deeply, letting my body guide me as I pressed into her, slowly filling the space between us. Maggie! I gasped, losing myself in the sensation of her body against mine. You feel so good. She writhed beneath me, her body arching to meet my thrusts, and the connection deepened with each movement. I wanted to savor this, to memorize the feeling of her wrapped around me, but the heat of the moment pulled me under. The world outside ceased to exist. It was just us, our bodies moving in rhythm, lost in the pleasure we were creating together. Wesley! She gasped, her nails digging into my back, urging me on. More. I need more. With every word, every gasp, I felt the tension building, the connection deepening. I moved faster, driven by the desire to bring her to the brink, to lose myself in her completely. You're amazing, I murmured, my breath ragged as I felt her body tighten around me, responding to my every thrust. The sounds of our bodies meeting filled the air, a symphony of passion that echoed in the quiet of the room. I could feel the intensity rising, a wave of pleasure crashing over us, pulling us closer to the edge. I locked my gaze onto hers, wanting to see the moment she surrendered to the tide. Wesley, I'm so close, she whispered, her voice trembling with urgency. Me too, I replied, my voice thick with desire. Let go with me. And in that moment, we shattered together, a collision of bodies and souls that left us breathless and trembling. As the waves of pleasure washed over us, I felt a sense of connection that transcended the physical, a bond that felt unbreakable, forged in the heat of our desire and the vulnerability of our love. As we lay entwined in the aftermath, the world outside faded into the background. The intimacy of our connection wrapped around us like a blanket, cocooning us in warmth and safety. I brushed a strand of hair from Maggie's forehead, my heart swelling with affection. I love you, I whispered, the words a promise that hung in the air, binding us together in the quiet aftermath of our passion. I love you too, she replied softly, her eyes shining with sincerity. In that moment, the weight of our troubles felt lighter, the shadows of doubt pushed back by the warmth of our renewed connection. But deep down, I couldn't shake the lingering worry. The reality of what lay outside this sanctuary still loomed: Jake, the secrets, the betrayal that had brought us here. Yet for now, I allowed myself to bask in the comfort of her presence, knowing that this was just the first step in our journey back to one another. We had reignited a flame that I hoped could guide us through the darkness ahead, and as I held her close, I was determined to fight for us, no matter the challenges that lay ahead. As we lay wrapped in each other's arms, the weight of the night hung heavy in the air, infused with the warmth of our intimacy. I could still feel the electric charge between us, the remnants of our passion echoing softly in the quiet room. Maggie nestled closer, her head resting against my chest, and I felt a profound sense of peace wash over me. But beneath that peace lay a current of unresolved tension, a reminder of the complexities that still lurked in the shadows. Jake's name echoed in my mind, a reminder of the betrayal that had almost torn us apart. I glanced down at Maggie, who looked peaceful, her features softened in the dim light. Wesley, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Can we really move past this? I took a deep breath, searching for the right words. We can, I replied firmly, feeling a surge of determination. But it's going to take time. We have to be honest with each other, about everything. She nodded, her expression earnest. I know I've hurt you, and I can't change that. But I want to make things right. I want us to be stronger together. Her words resonated with me, and I felt a flicker of hope ignite within my chest. We will be, I promised, my heart swelling with a mix of love and resolve. But we need to face what happened head on. I can't pretend it didn't affect me. I don't want you to, she replied, lifting her head to meet my gaze. I want us to be real with each other. I want to rebuild what we had brick by brick. A silence settled between us, heavy with understanding. I could see the sincerity in her eyes, the determination to mend the fractures that had threatened to divide us. I leaned down, capturing her lips in a tender kiss, a promise of my commitment to this new beginning. As we pulled away, I brushed my fingers against her cheek. We'll take it one step at a time. Together, I said, a vow binding us in that moment. Maggie smiled, a soft, genuine smile that lit up her face. Together, she echoed, and in that moment I knew we could face anything as long as we had each other. The sun began to rise outside, casting a golden glow into the room, a symbol of new beginnings. As the light filtered through the curtains, illuminating the space we occupied, I felt a sense of renewal. We had faced the darkness, the shadows of betrayal and doubt, and now it was time to step into the light. We would confront the challenges ahead, but we would do so hand in hand, fueled by love and a determination to rebuild. I tightened my grip around her, feeling her warmth against my side, and closed my eyes, savoring the moment. In that peaceful silence, I understood that while the journey ahead would be difficult, it was a journey worth taking. With Maggie by my side, I felt ready to face whatever came next, together, stronger, and more in love than ever.